Welcome to the June 20th, 1:30 p.m. City Council meeting. And at this time, we'll stand for the pledge and for prayer by Councilman Loftus. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's fine. Father in heaven, we thank you for another day that you have granted us. And we also thank you for every blessing that you have placed upon our city. At this time also, Father, we pray for the city of Perryton.
Yes.
And we pray that your mercy will be upon them and help them to recover.
Yes.
And we continue to ask you to bless our employees and everyone that's connected with our city here, that we might continue to grow in our sight. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it.
May I say something before we begin?
Sure.
I just want to honor Garrett and all of the other staff and even our first responders, because they sent reinforcements to go and help Perryton. And so to me, that just speaks volumes of, just the heart of our leaders. So anyway, I just want to say I bless you.
Amen.
And all the rest of them.
Amen.
Yeah.
Take a little bit of thunder out of my monthly report.
That's okay. We'll be all right with you. We'll give you your thunder back. Okay, so at this time, if there's any questions or comments from any citizen, and I see none, so we'll move on to the city manager's monthly report.
Well, I did kind of want to start off expressing my pride in the city departments and city staff for stepping up, with Perryton. So with that, in addition to the fire and police resources, we sent, the 2 Jasons went.
Yes.
We had 5 personnel from utilities go, 2 people from code enforcement, 10 people from public works. So overall, we had about 30 different city employees go up to Perryton to help with that. And of course, I did tell the departments, anything that was a reasonable request, just to let us know. I think there'll probably be some more requests coming up in the future, but we always like to help those regional partners, especially, Perryton is slightly more geographically isolated than a lot of us. There's not, they're up there a ways. So we definitely wanted to help them. And I did send David Landis, their city manager, a little text to let us know, anything that we can do or that they need to be sure to let us know, because I know that if that had happened here, it would have been the same vice versa. So we definitely wanted to do all of that. But I was definitely pleased with the willingness of all the city departments and city personnel to step up and do that. And so it was, I made a post on LinkedIn. I was kind of, our employees do things daily that so many people don't know about, but every now and then the, world gives us an opportunity to, put it more out there in the front, but we're definitely pleased with that. So as we go through the finances, I'm not going to talk just a whole lot. I will say that June sales tax was down 12%. So I don't have the details report yet to kind of dig into that. I will say that last June's payment was unusually high. So this June's payment is still more than the average of the month of June. So there might have been a fluke last year. We are still up slightly year to date. So I don't think it's necessarily a big concern. We're still definitely above our budget because we did budget conservatively. But I do think we might be start seeing some of the impacts of inflation and some of the economic downturn. I do think going into next year that will be mitigated by a lot of the turnarounds that are planned. So Nutrien has a turnaround planned in September, with Phillips having a large one planned in October. So we're going to have a lot of people in town that I think will mitigate that some in the short term. Revenues and expenditures revenue still remains above expenditures, and all the funds and everything's doing pretty well. Of course, like we said, that in the last work session, we are going to end both funds probably with a budget surplus, which did allow us to give out that one-time inflationary bonus to our employees, and I've had pretty good positive feedback on that and appreciate the council for supporting that. As we go through the departments, plan development, they finally have plans for Jackson Hot Oil out at the Enterprise Park. If you remember, we approved that agreement, and so quite a while back, inflation and a lot of other things that are kind of impacting businesses everywhere slowed that down, but they are starting to do that. Plan development does have their seasonal employees on staff and are now finally able to start trying to get to some of the weeds. Yes, I know that weeds are a problem, and yes, we are getting to them as fast as we can. However, all that wet where we couldn't do anything will get us a little behind.
Gary, do you think that new program has helped any? Have people utilized it at all, or do they even know about it yet?
They're just now getting into that. Stephen was just about ready to get it kicked
Okay.
off.
I
So,
didn't know if
yeah.
had even gotten kicked off.
The bulk waste self-help program, the trailers, has definitely been
yeah.
a big improvement, and they're seeing a pretty high demand for that, with almost all of them used every weekend. And so I would kind of remind everybody that especially remember in your alleys or easements, you are responsible to the center line of your alley or your easement.
I'm glad you said that, because few people believe that, well, that alley is the city's, no matter what. Anything behind my fence is not mine. And that's going to, I'm glad you reminded the citizens of that situation.
We do have crews to try to get to that, but there's a limited amount that we can spend to that. And like I've said on a couple of our posts here lately, it is a partnership. We need the citizens' help with that. We can do some, but we need, them to do their part as well. We are spraying mosquitoes.
Can I ask you a
Yep.
question? So if you haven't, like, we just mow up to the neighbors, do you know that, if you haven't, you said easement, and I'm like, I don't know if I have an easement, I'm assuming I do, but I don't know. Does people mostly know that, so they would probably just mow it, right?
We would hope so. We've sent, it's about time to send out the code enforcement flyer again that we send out each year, and the water bills. Right now, the Everbridge alert notification flyers and the water bills, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Easement or alley, because not everybody has an alley, but most everybody at least has a rear easement where their gas meters and stuff are.
Okay, I see.
So alley or easement, the homeowner.
Oh, I see. I thought you meant like maybe the side of your house. I didn't know if you were supposed to do something different with an easement. I don't know.
No, it's
Don't
just,
build on it.
yeah. But it's still it's technically your property.
Okay,
It's just the
makes
city
sense.
restricts
Yeah.
use in an alley or easement because it's reserved for vehicular access or water or stormwater or utility or whatever the particular issue is.
Okay.
And so we are, working on that as much as we can. The alley crew, if you look in your monthly reports, the number of, we are collecting tons and tons of waste from the alleys, which
Yeah.
really shouldn't be disposed there either.
No.
So keep in mind that if you do have bulk waste, you can call the transfer station, you can get a trailer. All we ask that you put it in the trailer to,
Yeah, absolutely.
save us a little time. And so all of our programs are geared to those partnerships, to where we can make it a little easier for you and you can make it a little easier for us, but we can't do everything for everybody. So we're trying to gear towards those partnerships. Utilities, our Aquatuck is scheduled to be here next Thursday. So our new vacuum truck that we've been waiting on for a while. We actually also got 2 pickup trucks last week and 4 more supposedly in the next week or 2. So maybe we're starting to see some of that stuff come in, which will be nice. Of course, water crew's been busy with leaks. He did want to indicate that, it's funny that some of the leaks have only been leaking when it's raining. So, just because you've got a wet hole, of course, we'll get some of that worked out now that it's over 100 degrees and the water's going to dry out pretty quick. But they've definitely been busy working water leaks and tracking down those ghost water leaks that seem to only leak when it rains. We are still continuing to work on the initial engineering for the sewer replacement next year and out back behind that car wash and the creek crossing. We're still on the test well list. So I think the rain really slowed them down too. It's kind of hard to get a test rig into open field when it's covered in water. I will say on the positive side, of course, with all that rain, the lake's come up 12 feet. So the salinity in the lake, that's been one of the problems we've been dealing with you being able to use the lake water. The salinity's come down about 50 points with that 12 feet. That's the salt.
Okay.
And so the state regulates the salinity content in public water systems. So like a lot of the member cities that use the lake water for potable water, Cremona's been having to mix more groundwater with it to get the salinity to the acceptable limits. Nutrien hasn't been able to use a lot of the lake water for their cooling towers because it's got too, the salinity content creates too much calcium issues in it. So hopefully this will allow the lake water to be more usable. I know that people are excited about the recreation possibilities too, but keep in mind, lake water is recharged. And what the aquifer does, it's much, much, much slower. And so generally we consider well water non-renewable and the lake water renewable. According to Cremoise's estimates, the 12 feet is about 5 years worth of water supply for the region. So it is a significant increase. And of course, with La Nina setting in, that normally is a wetter winter for us. So this winter, that should turn into hopefully some more positive inflow, and then especially for Ute is close enough to having to overflow if they've got a good winter with a lot of snow that could feed the lake into next year.
Well, what's Nutrien been doing then? Because I thought they did use a lot of lake water.
They've been compensating with more well water.
And then we just build them more on that.
Yeah, so if they can use the lake water, it reduces their water bill because the
I
raw,
see.
non-treated lake water is a cheaper price, so it helps their economics. They do continue to use the effluent, the treated wastewater,
Yeah.
and then the northwest well field. So we're glad to see that maybe we can start using a little more of that lake water. But I don't know that I ever thought I'd see the lake over or close to 80 feet ever again. So it's looking pretty good up there. I know that we'll talk about that in the next item, because now that we're done with utilities and we're going into the fire department. So they did complete the CPR training for dispatch, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. They've started hydrant testing finally, so it's going a little slow, but if you see them out testing hydrants.
Again this morning.
Yeah,
They
they
were
were
doing
on
it this morning.
And if your water does discolor from the hydrant testing, remember, you just let it run. When you open a hydrant for the first time in a while, you get a rush of water, which knocks some of the sediment out of the pipe. So that's just disturbed sediment that is safe in the pipe. It's just discolors it, so just let it run and it'll eventually settle. We have hired a new full-time firefighter, so we're working on that. I'm trying to get that taken care of. We are supposedly 2 weeks away on our replacement grass rig. This will replace the one that was crashed last year. Of course, we're cautiously optimistic because it's been 2 weeks out for about 6 months, I think.
Well, at least we had a lot of rain, so we didn't need it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but July's here.
which is why Wildland has been busy mowing and trimming to, reduce the fuel, which is why you'll probably also in the 2024 budget see a request for a zero-turn mower for the Wildland crew. The brush hog works good in some areas, but there's some other areas where a commercial zero-turn would be a little more efficient and quick, so they're gonna be asking for that
In this year?
next year in the
Okay.
coming up budget. And of course, the fire department is starting to get ready for the July 4th celebration out at the lake. And our third ambulance
Are they having fireworks at the lake?
Yeah, July
on Saturday,
1st.
July 1st.
I didn't know.
And so with the lake level as high as it is, and I don't know if y'all have been out to the lake lately, it is definitely being well used.
Yes, they open up
But you
to,
can't shoot fireworks out there, can you?
It's a professional show.
no, professional
Yeah, but,
show.
okay.
But
Okay.
public, no,
But public cannot do
you're
that.
not even
We
supposed
can
to
watch.
take it in.
Yeah.
But he said
But I
it's
mean,
gonna
you
go
can't do
Snake
your
Island.
own now. I didn't think so.
But, keep in mind, since we've taken over EMS, Fritch and the lake are in our response area.
Okay, I see.
So our third backup ambulance is supposed to be here next week. So we're definitely hoping to have it here before the 4th, because we do plan on staffing a little heavy on that day to get some extra resources out at the park. Fire department will have UTVs out there with medical staff available too. That in the past, on busy years, have drawn 40 to 50,000 people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we do
And
expect.
maybe that will prevent some of that there on the Fritch Highway. They just stand around the highway.
They've been pretty good about limiting that the last couple of years
Oh,
now.
they
The
have?
state's finally taken a zero tolerance on that, so
Okay.
it's moved off a little bit. And we'll talk about some other events coming, but that event's, big for the fire department. Of course, Fritz Fire Department never be out there, but it definitely takes a county response to that. We also were able to have 50 hydrants in the Buena Vista area painted by an Eagle Scout for his Eagle Scout project. So if you're out there, you can see some nice new red fire hydrants. sometimes it always amazes me how much a little paint makes something look so much better.
And they decided not to go with color coding on those, right?
Right, so what the plan is eventually, and of course, now all those hydrants are in their CAD system, so they know the water flow and the in-service status of all the hydrants on their computer when they're going, so the color coding is less necessary. It's been hard because what they're doing now isn't really testing, it's an inspection.
Inspection.
Just flushing it in inspection. They test every 5 years, which could potentially change the flow. So it's been problematic to repaint the hydrants based on if the flow changes, but the flow is automatically calculated and updated in their computer system, so we've decided to go just to the solid color. It makes it easier to maintain and easier to paint than having to keep all the different colors. We've talked about adding, they make little plastic rings now that you write like the inspection date and the flow on the ring if you need to, and the hydrant number. But the computer technologies
Yeah.
changed that a lot. They do have 3 firefighters in training right now for the incident response to bombing incidents. And of course, they did spend, the fire department and the police department both were in Perryton for 2 days. Most of our others were there for 1 day to start with, and we're getting ready for the TEEX driver operator course coming. That'll be at the Dome for our emergency responders and the region responders, so we're excited to see more training coming. In animal control, Daryl has completed his animal cruelty investigator training, so he's now certified in that. They were able to chip 50 animals over this weekend at the event sponsored. Dark Horse Properties sponsored the chip, so we were able to microchip 50 animals for free. So that's a good service, and they're getting ready to also participate in some microchipping events with the Salvation Army's back to school event later this summer. And then, of course, they'll be out at the pool party.
Party.
Like a paw tea.
That's bad. That's just bad.
What?
Paw, like a paw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna chip you next.
And then, of course, we were in Austin on Friday for Sergeant Tolis to receive the 2023 Texas Law Enforcement Achievement Award for Valor. So that was an exciting event for us, and recognize some more employees. They have 2 new employees who've been certified for drone operations, and they've had a meeting with Phillips, getting ready for the turnaround. So Phillips doing a lot of prepping for the turnaround. In Public Works, we've got all of our 4 park seasonal employees hired. They're going to be definitely busy mowing too, as all the rains improve that. Have 1 new hire in the solid waste department. Of course, Park Rec is up in full force now, so if you haven't been out there, I think Manny and Isaac have done a great job with that. They've got at least 1 special event every week this year for the kids, so there's definitely a lot of things going on, and so I know that that's a good thing. And now with the heat wave coming, I'm sure they'll be busy at the swimming pool.
They also brought a mental health counselor that's volunteering to come out there too, for the kids.
So they also have a mental health advocate that's out there as well, that's volunteering their time with the kids. I don't know if it's weekly, I don't know how often, but I know that they are coming out there, and they're kind of helping the kids, especially the younger ones, identify like their feelings and different things like that. That sounds kind of cheesy, but in the grand scheme of things, a lot of kids don't know certain things, and so I know that that's been really beneficial for them. We had I think it was a nurse practitioner that had actually approached Manny and Isaac about it, and so they were really excited to start offering that, because a lot of, some of the things that they see there, it's on the more sadder side of things that we just don't see, so I know that they were really excited about that.
That's good, yeah.
And I think that's very beneficial for some of the kids that do participate in that program. That is one of the bigger outreach programs that we have, with it being free of charge in the summer, while their parents might, work and not have any way to take care of them. I know that quite a few of the kids probably wouldn't be eating if it wasn't for the lunch provided as part of that program. So it definitely hits a lot of check boxes on a good program. So I'm excited to see them doing a little more with it and taking it to the next level. We also got our pothole patcher finally. So we will be able to run 2, we're going to hold off on trading the old one for a little bit so that we can try to run 2 crews and
that'd be
get caught
great.
up. Get caught up a little bit now that the rain's kind of slowed down, and we can do some of that. So you should start seeing that and getting that prepped, and just a reminder that we do have seal coating scheduled for the first week in August. And so we'll have that information on the website. That's Buena Vista, College, Sterling. There's quite a few streets on there this year. We also held our reconstruction meeting with J. Lee Milligan for the 10th Street Reconstruction Program. Right now, the start date on that is scheduled for July 5th. It'll take a little couple of days to, I mean, don't expect the jackhammers and everything to be there on the 5th, but we'll have to get traffic control in place. They're going to start with the utilities on the north side. Probably going to have to do some road work on the south sides before they move all the traffic to the south side, fill some of those potholes and mill some areas. There's some money in the project for that. The schedule is, the contract's 390 days to substantial completion and 420 total.
Wow.
So a little over a year, but that's about to start. We'll start having a dedicated webpage on our website with information on that, and we'll start really trying to coordinate public education as that project goes. I did speak with the plant manager today about that. They're a little concerned with the timing of that, with the turnaround. We still will maintain 2 lanes throughout the project, so I don't think it'll be that big of an impact. Most of the turnaround traffic will continue to go through Carolina and down Cedar or south to Florida. So I think the 10th Street will be,
There will be 2 lanes on 10th Street during the construction?
well, 1 lane each direction.
I mean, that's what I
Yeah.
mean, but we will be able to do that? Oh, I didn't know that.
They'll be a little smaller,
Yeah,
because right now you've got 3 full lanes with the
Oh,
turn
that's
lane.
true.
So
Yeah,
so
you're right, you're right.
you'll share some of
Okay,
that.
that
But
makes sense.
yeah, but we will be able to maintain traffic in both directions.
okay.
And with the stoplight gone, it'll still be a straight shot if those people want to do it. I think the perception is that a lot of the traffic on 10th goes out to the plants, but that's not what the traffic counts indicate. The traffic counts between Cedar and Main is about 14,000 cars a week. On the other side of Main Street, going out to the plant, it drops to like 4,500. So more than half does not go
Yeah,
on.
I mean, you can tell they go
Yeah.
Carolina to Cedar, because, I mean, you can see them doing that.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll
Or
be
the other way.
that big of an impact. It'll be nicer than,
Yeah.
better than if it was completely closed. What we talked about is maybe during their early commute hours in the morning and the evenings, turning the stoplight at Main and 10th to just flash to where it's,
Stop and go.
well, it's yellow on the 10th Street side and stop on the Main Street side, and kind of facilitate the quick flow. But we'll work through that as it gets closer, but I think it'll be okay. Bigger problem is we'll continue to make sure that we communicate with the businesses and the citizens, making sure that they continue to frequent the businesses that are impacted. There'll be plenty of parking on the streets, on the cross streets. Still have access from the cross streets. On the south side, you'll have normal access for at least half of the project, although, I'd be a little careful about pulling out with the narrow lane.
Meggert's be done last?
The first third of Meggert is part of Phase 1.
Oh, it is, okay.
And so then the other half of it will be done last after the street is done.
You said it's July 5th?
July 5th is the tentative, and I'll have a detailed schedule, and it'll end up on the website, and I'll send it to y'all when we get all the phases, but J. Lee Milligan has a pretty good record of maintaining their schedules, and
I mean, it won't be past us Main Street anyway,
No.
because that's
Right.
been done.
it's only that stretch of 10th would have always been the bottleneck with the construction traffic, because even with how it is now, it's still just 2 lanes in each direction, so it still would have been, I don't think the traffic flow is gonna be any different.
No, absolutely.
Like what I told Phillips is it'll slow it down just a little bit, because you're not gonna be able to,
You gotta go slow.
you're gonna have to go the speed limit now instead of
Yeah.
everybody going over the speed limit.
Absolutely.
But I don't think the number of cars will be impacted that much. But they're talking about 1,500 cars per shift change that they were looking at going that way in the course of an hour, or 800 or something like that. But it's definitely gonna be some people in town. And I'm getting prepped for my normal little complaint, and because when those come in and I have to sit through a stoplight in Borger, I normally yell to myself that I'm in Borger, Texas. Why did I have to sit through this stoplight twice?
Yeah.
Is that Walmart?
Well,
God, that's when I've been.
we went, normally it was at third and Cedar or 10th and Cedar, but that's coming. But so, like I said, we'll have a lot more information on that 10th Street project as it starts. I'm excited to see that going. You are starting to see they're making some pretty good progress on the sidewalks in the 700 block now, that it's dried out a little bit. And of course, they're getting ready to do final grading on the building that was torn down, and once that happens, they'll replace the temporary chain link with just some barricade fence and be a little smaller. Once the final grading is done, we'll get the survey, Park Hill will get the survey to finish up the plans for the park that will eventually go in there probably into the next budget year, but we are working on that. Emergency management, we did get the regional floodplain was submitted with our projects in it, so we could be eligible to fund the next phase of planning. So we can't fund the construction yet because we don't have the do no harm analysis. So the next phase of those is we have to do further engineering to make sure that the new system, we've done the analysis on what happens if there isn't a system or if this current system fails. Now we've got to do the analysis on what it looks like with the new system in place. Because we have to be able to show that it's not going to do any harm to any additional property. So that being added to the floodplain will make us eligible for grants for that part of the phase so we can move some of the projects forward. So we're excited about that. With that submitted, we're currently finalizing the master drainage plan grant since it's been completed with the steps we took last week. They also completed a tabletop exercise with Nutrien as we continue to try to reach out and coordinate potential responses with all of our industrial partners. We also did get the H2SO4 sampler in. So it's in OEM's office if we need it. Tokai is back operational after they're shut down earlier this month, and from what I can tell, it looks like it's been working much better. We're still kind of early in that, so we're keeping an eye on that. Like I mentioned earlier, we did send out a manual Everbridge alert notification sign up in the water bills for those that haven't been able to see our social media or website engagements. I've already gotten 40 of those back. So I'd say that was a pretty good outreach for that. So we're give people a better way of doing that. I did kind of just want to touch a little bit, and we haven't had most of the feedback from when the sirens went off during our possible tornadic siren. Most of it was positive. Some people were complaining that it was too early or it was never really going to impact us. I would just remind everybody that they are outdoor warning sirens. And so they're supposed to let you know that something could be happening. It's not the last minute siren to say, now is the time to go to the basement.
Right.
They should be given enough warning to say, oh, I need to go find out or look what's going on.
Yes.
And so I think the Perryton tornado is a good example of why you do that early. Their sirens did not go off. And they had a lot of people say that they were unaware of what was going on. And so I know that one of the deaths was somebody working in her business because, she's a small business owner, having to do all that work, was in the back and had no idea that anything was coming. Because you're not watching TV, you're not doing anything. So I think we will always err on the safe side of early warning
Yeah.
than we would on late or no warning. So I think for us,
Well,
that's,
it's definitely nice when you have someone handicapped in your home too, because I mean, at that point, it takes time. And it was kind of nice to be able to get them to where.
I know for ourselves and stuff, I was working on a hot tub and Debbie and her sister and they all went off. I told them, take shelter,
Yeah.
And they called it a block party because every neighbor was out looking at the sky.
well, there's a video out there on Facebook. The language isn't all that great, but it was somebody filming the tornado from Perryton on their porch
Yeah.
as it came over their house, and they were.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that.
Well, Garrett, I did have one of the RV people call me and ask, we don't have a public place, do we? Okay, because they had some of their people in the RVs ask, where do they go?
Yeah, Jason and I have talked about that. There hasn't been for a city to maintain an official list of shelters, we have to guarantee that they'll be open. In the past, some churches have offered that, but then they've changed personnel, or they didn't have for it to be a public shelter, we have to be able to guarantee that in an event, it will be open.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so
I
it's,
didn't think we had one. I was just checking on that.
No, and
I
the
know
ci-
at one time, years and years and years ago, they had it under the fire department. way
They had
back.
one up by Uber, those lab buildings out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I knew we didn't, and they told them to follow the best directions, what you're supposed to do
yeah,
in a tornado.
what Whistler and I have talked about is trying to find some sort of, he was gonna reach out to maybe, at one point, Commissioner Kirksey had a pretty good handle of local churches and things like that. We're gonna try to find some sort of, somebody that can coordinate those, that doesn't have to be government official, but
Right.
can maybe coordinate a list or coordinate some places that may be open, you know, to where we don't have to guarantee they're open. You know, City Hall is not a good, it's not a, it's got a basement, but keep in mind, it's not a hardened basement. This is plyboard on front of us, so
Yeah.
this is not a shelter.
Right, absolutely.
And so we have no other city facility that's rated as a shelter.
Well, I mean, you know, just like us, we go into our bathroom, but I mean, in our RV part, I mean, they would need to go somewhere, but, you know, even if it's in the gully,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, my grandpa was coming back one time from Panhandle with one of his kids when I think that like the 70s tornado that hit Pampa or something like that, and they got out and got into the,
gully. I've done it many times with my mom when we were traveling.
and I think we've kind of gotten a little bit complacent because, you know, for the last 10 years,
Yeah, we haven't
Yeah.
had stuff.
you know, we've been kind of in a unusual pattern where we just haven't had the severe weather like
We have, that's right.
especially the tornadic side, and so we're getting a lot of those questions now, so we're trying to work on some of that education, but it can't be, you know, the liability on us and what we
Yeah,
do
we can't,
is
yeah.
different, so we're trying to find that coordination path,
Yeah.
path to do that. But I will say the money that we've invested in the new tornadoes, sirens, I think
yeah.
paid off.
Yeah.
They have a certain amount of automatic functionality now to where when the Weather Service issues a tornado warning, the system automatically triggers them. So like even in the middle of the night, if something snuck up, there's no way to really sneak up on that. So we've definitely taken some steps to make sure that we're as able to be notified
And
as.
they're on a backup or something in case like.
They're all battery powered
They're
now.
battery powered.
So they've got that solar panel that charges them, so they're all off the grid. So even if the power goes down, if that pole's still standing, it will
Okay.
keep going off.
That's awesome.
So they're definitely much more reliable and much more fail-proof. We've done a little bit of talk, there was some talk on whether we wanted to segment the city. And personally, I think if one of them goes off somewhere in the city, we might as well sound them all.
Right.
We're not that big, people could be
Right.
living, I mean, if, you need to know, I think, wherever you're at. Because you might be in Buena Vista, but you might live in the regular part of town, so maybe you need to realize that something's not going someplace else and you need to stay away from home or
Yeah,
things like that. But we do have, I mean, keep in mind, in addition to the weather, and the county installed the new NOAA weather radio, so, radio transmitter, so the old one was 1,000 watts, this new one's 10,000 watts. So if you need a NOAA weather radio, you can get those now. We've got some programs, I think, coming up that'll help get those to some people, so that you've got that option if you need that. In addition to our social media that is automatically linked to the National Weather Service alerts, so any of our social media pages are automatically posting. We've got the Everbridge system, which will post those that you can sign up for your house phone, your app, your cell phone, however you want. You can do that online, plus you can do that from the paper form that we've sent out, plus the outdoor warning siren. So just right now, in the city of Borger and Hutchinson County, there are 5 different ways to get, to be alerted. So, you know, there again, we need that partnership and that help. We're doing our way and giving multiple options for how to do that. And that's just, you know, really sad deal, but Perryton reinforces the need to, you know, have those plans in place to know where you're gonna be alerted and
Yeah,
how
I mean,
you're gonna be alerted.
You know, and that, I mean, that is, but when you think about it, we are very surrounded by RV parks in this city, I mean, inside the city, and so, I mean, they definitely need to figure out a plan for themselves, what they can do, because you don't wanna be I don't think you wanna be in an RV.
And I will just also reinforce one of the problems that happened is I'd just like to remind you that our policy is to disperse emergency equipment when storms like that come in. So I know that Perryton, it hit all of their infrastructure. It went over their city hall, went over their fire station, you know, which complicated a whole lot of things. Almost all of their emergency equipment had to be dug out
Yeah.
to be used. So just, you know, wanted you to be mindful that we do have plans to try to
Okay, I see,
to disperse that, so we generally don't keep equipment at the station
makes sense.
when that happens. And so I did reconfirm that with everybody today. But that's the benefit of being paid and having paid departments. I'm not faulting Perryton, you know, volunteers operate a whole lot differently. But we need to take an assessment anytime we have an opportunity to do that. But I did just kind of want to reinforce that. And like I said, have a plan, whether you're here temporarily in a trailer, whether you're
Absolutely.
here permanently. You know, manufactured homes, a lot of, you know, that tornado in Perryton, a lot of the manufactured homes are on the north side of town where it came through, and those just,
Destroyed them.
Obliterated them.
You know, do you think that maybe the people that own these RV parks or trailer parks can hand out some type of information to the individuals when they check into their place. Try to give them some kind of direction, like, you know, people from Houston, you know,
Yeah.
where they possibly
Yeah.
could go, you know, because a lot of them do not know what direction they're going
Right.
to anyhow.
I think what we've talked about doing with Whistler, and I've talked a little bit about that, and, you know, Deidre's working on a contractor guide for all the contractors coming in, is maybe putting a spill in there that in severe weather, you know, make sure that you've got a place to go or know a regional, you know, sometimes, you know, this sounds funny for us, you know, because people want a shelter, but maybe sometimes you just need to leave town for a while. And I joke about, you know, that I like tornadoes compared to all the other disasters, because, you know, an earthquake, no warning and not a thing you can do about it. Hurricane, lots of warning, but the only thing you can do is leave.
Yeah.
Tornado, you get warning and there are some things you can do, but if you're here visiting and you don't have someplace to go, you know, you might need to treat it like a hurricane,
And
and
I
maybe
think-
it's better to leave.
I think that falls on Phillips a little bit too, their responsibility to let them know what y'all can do, because they're the ones bringing them in. I mean, you know, maybe they have some place that where they can go too. I mean, they definitely need to know a place, because, I mean, there is a lot of RV parks in this town.
Well, the nice thing is those storms normally aren't that wide, you know, they're 10 or 15 miles wide, so you could just drive 10 miles south of town, wait for it to
Yeah,
pass.
True.
I mean, and I've seen people do that, and some people would rather do that than ride it out in their house, because, but
Just want
we're
one
definitely
time
working on some things. We're trying to balance how, because like I said, we can't be in the place of saying, hey, these are the public shelters, the church will be
Yeah, we
open, and
can't-
then what
yeah,
happens when the church isn't open?
Absolutely,
Sure.
right.
Or this building is supposed to be open, but somebody couldn't, because they're on vacation or they couldn't get there, and so that's the challenge.
And it's I mean, we can't be responsible when there's a lot of people being brought into town. I mean, we, as a
Yeah.
city, we have to be pretty responsible for our citizens, but,
Well, luckily in the fall, you know,
yeah.
Weather should be a
Yeah, true,
little-
that's true, absolutely.
a little better, but I think it's, you know, because I thought we need to have some of that signage up at the city's RV park at Huber Park, you know, in case of severe weather, here's where you get your information. You
Yeah.
have a plan, have someplace safe to go, that, you know.
Yeah,
We have had a few people reach out, just on our social media pages about that are saying just that, you know, we're here just for work and we don't really know what to do. So when we get those messages, we just reinforce the different ways that we communicate, which is like through Everbridge, the OEM
Right.
page, all of, any of our Facebooks really, and give them different options, and then kind of just refer them back to the lessons we've been taught since we were little bitty
Absolutely.
about tornadoes. But it is something that that we do want to put in the contractor guide as well, because I mean, even if it's not a tornado, just some of the storms we get in general aren't really conducive to people that are living in RVs. I mean, they don't fare very well in them, so they do need to be aware of that. A lot of them are from South Texas, so they're used to hurricanes, but they're not necessarily used to this type of weather. So definitely at the forefront.
And I mean, really, the only true safe thing is to leave.
yeah.
I mean, because there's no guarantee that you won't be trapped in a basement or be flooded or
Stuck in the
So-
shower, on the floor,
stuck in the shower on the floor is better than
trying to get out.
anywhere, but yeah.
Is there anybody available to come pick me up? Freak me out, lady.
I was like, oh
But with
my
that, I can also say that the weather radar installation is finalized now. They're just finalizing some programs, so we're about to have that resource tied with that radar being operated by the meteorologist out at Pantex. So that'll be, I think, a really good resource in getting that advance warning and getting that notice coming. So we're excited about that project in partnership with Pantex coming to an end. OEM also participated with the fire department and the police department with the books, badges, and boots at the library.
That was fun.
So there were more adults than kids there, so
My granddaughter loved it. Them water balloons was a hit.
and then they also participated at the last day of school at Crockett with a little kind of water fight at Crockett.
That's cool.
Pinder was the honored guest at the Boy Scout
I saw that in your press.
banquet this year, so we're excited for him to represent us and the Boy Scouts in such a good way. We also did get the AEDs, the automatic external defibrillators, installed in the PD, the Dome, and City Hall. So as we're trying to, be ready for those things, those are now in the building as we get ready to train staff on CPR and first aid again. We have our new IT position, will start July 3rd, so that's been open since January. So we've got a guy that I think will do us a good job starting in July here around the meeting. Dispatch completed their quarterly meeting with the other partners, and that went well. They also did complete their CPR training, which is required, and we have 2 new dispatchers that have completed their emergency medical dispatcher training, so excited to see that development. In public engagement, so it's that time of year again, our community survey is going out, so if you get a letter in the mail asking you to complete the survey, the letter's from Karen, it's got her little signature on it. So it's just like we did last year, this is kind of our scientifically based community feedback to let us know what we're doing well, where we need improvements on. It's our way to get a better picture than just some of our social media feedback, which can be good, but I took a course at the Texas City Management Association's annual conference where they introduced me to a new term, the STPs. And the STPs are the same 10 people.
We know that.
And so it's pretty good. And what they're talking about is that, while the STPs can have good information, they can have bad information, you want to make sure that your decisions aren't just based on what the STPs want, that they have a more wide approach. And that's why we do this community survey, trying to make sure that we get feedback from the totality
Yeah.
of our community and not just those STPs, the ones that aren't afraid to talk. Because
Isn't that sent out randomly,
Yeah.
picked randomly?
yeah, so they take all the addresses from the U.S. Postal Service in the city, they randomly select them and then send them out. And so then you got a special link, and then the return addresses come to us, because then they count out how many they sent out versus how many weren't returned versus how many were answered, which gives us a percent error. So last year, I think our percent error was around 5%, which is pretty good for 180 responses. But it does give us a good idea of what people think and where things are going in our community. So Deidre's also busy working up 9 events in the coming months coming up. So we've got Channel 10 is going to do their summer celebration here again. That's going to be on July 18th downtown. So we'll have more information coming about that. That should be a good time. You can come get yourself on TV and maybe see what all we're going to do. But we're going to try to do that upright, make sure that we look better than all the other communities that are being spotlighted on the community tour. So
Tampa goes the day before us, so
Oh, yeah.
really have to
Is
get
that the
it
Channel
together.
10?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
then, of course, we have Freedom on Main scheduled for Saturday, September 1st. That is the same day as the Fridge fireworks, but this is mainly scheduled in the morning. We're trying to set it up to where you've got things to come do over here while you're waiting for the fireworks and all the fun
You
to be
mean
out at the
July
lake.
1st?
July 1st. What did I say?
You said September, but
Oh.
that's okay.
July 1st. Guess I'm ready to be out of budget season.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, July 1st. So in the morning we'll have the farmers market and some, the kids bike parade like we did last year, and some
Oh,
events
yeah, I love that bike parade. That's
and things downtown through the early afternoon, and then you can go out to the lake and enjoy the fireworks and all those festivities. We're also continuing to work on Boomtoberfest, which is coming up this October. So we've been
Yeah.
having pretty good response to some of our fundraising, and that's going to be
Yeah, I saw there was a lot of sponsors.
it's going to be a fun event, fun over the weekend event, So this is kind of that new signature event that we're trying to brand, and I think people are going to be
Was
excited and
it
happy
called
with
that
that.
last year? It wasn't, was it?
It was-
I didn't think so.
No, because last year we did live at the Dome.
Yeah,
No,
live at
yeah.
the Dome. Okay.
And so we had kind of known, because we didn't want, because that was in April, because we've been delayed by the pandemic.
Yeah.
We were supposed to have Boomtoberfest the October before, but and that was going to be our
Yeah.
signature year. And so that didn't happen, but we had paid the artist, so we had to keep something scheduled. We couldn't put it off, so we scheduled it in April, and then the artist got sick
Right, okay.
and canceled, but that was still, we've had nothing, I've heard nothing but positive feedback from those events. And so that's definitely, I think, something that people want. This one will be more, we'll be doing things downtown on Friday before it moves to the Dome and the big concert on Saturday, and then concludes with some sort of fish fry on Sunday.
Yeah, Terry Webster and Pete Loftus are gonna sing for us on the main street.
That's the time, that's coming up, what, this
That's
weekend?
talent.
Well, I tell you what, there won't be nobody there. Just ask some of the kids that's over middle school.
We have people come in all the way from Oklahoma.
We're also getting ready for National Night Out later in October. You know, that's the public safety outreach event. We did that last year on Main Street that turned out pretty well, where all the public safety agencies come out and you get to interact with all the kids.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that. She's also been working on partnering with Lemonade Day, which I don't know if you know about Lemonade Day, but it's a national program to kind of get kids involved in entrepreneurships through
cool.
education, and it kind of culminates with them operating a lemonade stand.
Well, I
Did you
saw
get
there
city
was a
licenses
lemonade
for that?
stand for Perriton.
Well,
Somebody here in Borger.
yes and no.
What was the question?
It's city licenses.
In this city, no. We don't regulate cottage operations is what they call that.
But it
I know
does
where you're
teach them
going.
about that, though. It's really neat. Like, luckily, they kind of hand-deliver the program materials and everything, so it is a very structured program,
But
but
it's not hard lemonade or anything like that.
maybe not. Depends on who's selling it, no. They
Well,
tailor the age
if you
groups and
leave the lemons too
everything, so-
long, they're hard. I mean,
Just depends on.
I know it's lemonade today.
well, with the contractors coming in town, there might be.
Might be a market for it.
See how entrepreneurial the kids really are, huh? But we're excited to see how that comes together. I think that's a good opportunity to have an event, but also, you know, partake some skills and some practical learning with the
Absolutely,
kids.
that's a great idea.
And some of that will probably be tied with, they have completed interviews for the Youth Advisory Council. And so that's getting ready to be revived, and we're excited to see that come again in a little more structured,
Structured,
more modern
absolutely.
form. So
For
we're,
them to get some good education,
Right.
even about city services and things.
and then we've had pretty good feedback from our first 2 episodes of the podcasts. If you haven't listened to or seen the podcast, you know, Bridging the Gap.
They've been great.
good.
So I did not realize, I learned this last one that we had a fleet accident involving the fire marshal and one of our city employees.
Oh, you didn't know that, huh?
I did not know that.
That's why every time she parks next to your car,
But those seem to be pretty well received so far, and enough so that we've been notified that we've had enough engagement that we could monetize the podcast if we want to, and maybe make a little bit of money on it, which would allow us to offset our cost or keep doing
Yeah.
that. So we'll
so
see
you
if.
pay somebody to edit. Between me and Isaac does a good job, but it's a whole lot harder than
Oh, I bet.
time consuming.
Yeah, especially when you interview somebody that has a little
Oh,
19-month-old with them.
We've got a lot of material, but that's part of it is just,
Yeah.
the editing. So we
Editing,
kind of
I bet.
space them out about every 2 weeks. So that gives us enough time to get the material in and also edit it. So if you've
They were
done
great,
one,
though. Y'all did a great job. And that one, just the little clip from Nicole and Jason's accident, I bet you it got shared. I saw it shared many, many times.
That's great.
It was
good.
funny.
That's the purpose of it.
It's
We've done a
definitely
lot of
creating
those.
engagement
It is,
and
it's real,
getting
and
that.
it is bridging the
Yeah.
gap. Because, I mean, that was one of the things I used to hear from, people more towards y'all's age, that, why don't y'all get out of there and, instead of just on Facebook, because they don't use Facebook much anymore. It's definitely a different thing, so.
Let's definitely, provide some good information while, kind of showing that we're human and
Absolutely.
normal individuals too, so we're excited to see how that's going. HR, of course, they've been busy with all the summer hires and all that stuff, but we also had our wellness fair, we talked about, this was our largest attended wellness fair ever, so we've had more people complete their wellness evaluation by doing that and having it more convenient for our employees, so we're excited about that. That'll get more of them to get their $300 wellness bonus.
Yeah, that's great.
So we definitely want to do that, and it gives us an opportunity to find illness early, which is then cheaper to treat, which then saves us cost on medical insurance. We also have 2 interns from the Texas Workforce Commission. They've got a program for those with special needs. So we've got one working with Gary Winks out in the parks, and we've got another one working with our alley crew
Oh, that's
in
great.
code enforcement. So the Texas Workforce Development is handling all the payment and everything. They just needed someone to offer the job. So we've got those 2 working, and that's been working pretty well. Levi and Akili, I think.
Oh, that's great.
And so we're excited to see how that program works and give some of our special needs community an opportunity to earn some money and to help their community. And then we also have 3 paid summer interns that have started, one in IT, one in finance, and one in the dom/public engagement.
Okay.
This is Nicole's.
Hi.
You'll get formally introduced to all of them at some point. They probably don't know that yet.
Okay.
Well, we were joking because she's working with Nicole, but she's a chemical engineer major, right?
Okay.
But my aunt was a chemical engineer, and she spent her entire career in the marketing department of Chevron Phillips. So maybe it is, can be
Yeah.
some good skills. But we were glad to have 3 very qualified local interns that could work the summer and
That's great.
learn a little bit and help us a little bit. So that's what I know for this month, last month. Any other questions?
You do great.
All looks good.
Thank you, Garrett. Thanks so much. So at this time, if there's not anything, then we will move on to the consent items 6 through 9. And if there's any questions or if comments, and if not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve consent items 6 through 9.
Second.
All in favor? And they pass. And item 10, consider and take appropriate action to receive Borger Inc.'s fiscal year 2023 mid-year report.
Do you want to talk? You want me to talk?
I don't know, she told me you were, but I'll do whatever.
Yeah. She told me she couldn't be here and that I could handle it, but she didn't.
Michelle's here, so we can,
And there is a summary in your memo.
yes.
Yeah.
So I think Michelle will attest, it's been a busy half year.
Definitely so.
And I just point out that probably some of the bigger achievements is we are getting really close to being ready to move dirt on Yucca Estates. And, I know housing's been a big thing on us and on the EDC. Johnny Plumley has completed the easement turnovers and everything, and that was kind of the last thing that was holding it up. We should have final engineering this month and have the plat approved next month.
All right.
So we've been working with a potential developer 2 potential developers now that are interested in some of that stuff, working out which one's the best. But I do think we're going to see homes going up there before the end of the year.
All right.
That's great.
Great.
They've also sent information to a lot of different prospects. We're working on one right now with the industrial park, which could be, up to 60 jobs and a $50 million investment. So we're excited about that.
That's great.
They've been updating the website and keeping information there, and it's, trying to support the school's construction program and working with those trades up in Frank Phillips College. That item's on the agenda. Plus, you've seen a lot of the incentives that got approved with Happy Heart Yoga that's about to be coming, and a lot of those other things like that. So they're getting ready to start construction on the old Cezanne's building
Oh, really? Okay.
downtown, which we're trying to, they're gonna finish up into some usable space.
Is that gonna be more than one, is it gonna be just one business that can go in there, or is it gonna be divided somehow, or?
It probably could be divided, but I think we're hoping for maybe one.
Okay.
The electrical, it was designed to set up a co-working space if we didn't have another use, but the goal would be to
Have one, okay.
have one. But the plumbing and the electrical are run so that you could have booths for a hair salon or
Oh, okay.
individual work booths for a co-working space. I think some of the interest that we've seen probably does lead to a single tenant.
Okay, that's great.
And you didn't mention on the business park, Jackson Huddle is breaking ground, so they're gonna be, doing that here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So,
And they're building, right? Building
Yes,
up, okay. And that's in the business park, or the
Enterprise Park.
enterprise
Enterprise.
park, yeah, enterprise park.
I've-
that's why he gets to speak.
Well, I struggle with that. It's taken me, 6 months to finally get used to
I
that.
know, it's funny.
Most of it's because I type it to them in their emails, and I'll start typing business, and then I have to delete,
Yeah.
and go back, and so I've kind of learned. But I would say, with all the changeover and everything that's kind of happened, we've been progressing pretty well. It's definitely a team effort with economic development, and I'm excited with what we've done and where we're going.
Yeah.
There's going to be, I think, a lot even more next
Yeah.
year, so.
And that car lot looks like it's, I know that probably didn't go through EDC. Did that go through EDC?
Bulldog motor?
No, the new
the car
lot.
wash.
A
Oh, the
new
car wash did
Oh,
not,
the
no,
car
yeah.
wash, I meant car wash, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That didn't, did it? Okay. It looks like it's getting there
It does look
anyway.
like it's coming along.
I know, it's huge.
It's,
It is
it's
huge.
further along than the one in Pampa. They put one in Pampa,
It
the
is
shopping
huge.
center, same type.
Yeah.
So,
Is it one where they
this
wash
is-
it for you?
huh?
Is it one where they wash it for you?
I don't know. I usually wash my own.
You may have to try it once.
Do you have anything else, Michelle?
Can't think of anything. Took care of it all.
Well, there's, the interesting thing with economic development is so much happens behind the scenes,
Yeah.
you know, and there's things at different levels and, you know, when we can say and
Yeah,
what we,
when you
I
can,
understand that.
absolutely.
what we can't say. So, I mean, there's a lot that we can say and you've seen lots of progress with that, but I can tell you there's even more still working in the background that,
Right.
you know, on the economic front and the housing front, you know, this town's gonna look a lot different in 18 or 24 months.
Yeah, that's great.
That's awesome.
Well, that sounds good. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you for, is there any questions or comments? If not, then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to receive Borger Inc.'s fiscal year 2023 mid-year report as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? And it passes. And item 11, consider and take appropriate action on Resolution R-016-23, authorizing an agreement for infrastructure improvements between Borger Inc., the Borger Economic Development Corporation, and Frank Phillips College. Mr., Michelle, you wanted?
So this is a,
Sorry.
so this is, we've talked about this before, so this is kind of a twofold project. The infrastructure improvement grant will be to Frank Phillips College to expand their welding facility. But it's tied to a lease, making sure that the college will then lease the old ag building, which they're using as their overflow welding right now, to Borger High School for use in their construction management program.
Okay. And that's tied in the agreement?
Right, so their infrastructure improvements are contingent upon Borger ISD's use of that facility.
Okay.
Does the weld stuff have to be done before they can use the other portion?
Yeah, because they're gonna have to move out of the ag building.
Okay.
So, but that's all tied into there. So once the new facility is constructed, and Frank Phillips College is about a $550,000 project. This is just $100,000 of the $550,000 they've secured funding for the other part of it. The EDC didn't just want to fund the welding program.
Right.
You know,
They wanted to
they've been funded quite a bit, and so the construction programs and the trades have been a high demand job that we have local need of, and we're also hoping to, if we can, generate some of those home builders and those trades here, that maybe it'll help with our housing shortage and our housing issues there. So this was the kind of the compromise agreement to make sure that we help both. So we're helping the college, but we're also helping the construction program at the high school, which we kind of wanted to help more. This will give them a bigger facility that's more secure to lock up their tools and things like that. Dr. Forgy talked about that, I think, a little bit when he was last here. We hope that program eventually gets to the point to where that class is either rehabbing or building a new residence each year. And so we can either give them a tax property, or, whether one that just needs rehabbed or an empty lot to build something on. And so I think that's kind of where we're trying to go. And so this gets that there, and then there might be something else in the future that we support for, what that project looks like or how we handle that.
Now, is the school funding part of this itself? I mean, the high school?
The high school is funding all of the rest of the construction management programs, all the tools, equipment. So they're getting a zero interest lease from the college to use the facility, but the school has had to buy all the tools and,
Everything.
there's quite a bit in that. But we also feel it important to support, the school district's push towards, workforce education.
All right.
And, getting kind of revamping this model of everybody needs to go to college.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, getting practical skills to people, I think is very important. And between the Boomtown Scholarship and everything that we have going in the school district now, I mean, if you want, there's an opportunity for every high schooler to graduate with some sort of career development degree or associates to where you could go straight to work and be, you know, a valued member of our community right out of high school. So I definitely, you know, one of the council's pillars in supporting that program, so.
And so this agreement, I mean, like, is that kind of, I think the word's clawback, but I don't know, where if they do not allow Borger High School in there, then that money, they would have to.
Right, so it's a 10-year lease agreement.
Okay.
So if they don't guarantee, if the school doesn't get to use the facility for 10 years,
Okay.
then the college will have to repay a prorated portion of the infrastructure grant.
Okay. All
Did I forget anything?
right. Sorry, Michelle. Thank you, though.
That's
Thank you for
okay.
being here.
Yeah.
You don't go away, we might call you back.
Yeah.
I know, I thought, well, maybe I'll just sit here and wait.
Well, she's better and knows more than she thinks she does.
I know, she does. She absolutely does. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank
Michelle.
Other questions?
No. If not, then we'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution R-016-23, authorizing an agreement for infrastructure improvements between Borger Incorporated, the Borger Economic Development Corporation, and Frank Phillips College.
Second.
All in favor? And it passes. Item 12, consider and take appropriate action on Resolution R-017-23, authorizing representatives in matters pertaining to the City of Borger's participation in the Community Development Block Grant Program. Mr. Spratland.
So, you know, we've had several CDBG grants, including the second downtown revitalization grant that's currently ongoing. The previous resolution we've had in place called out individuals by name. And so now that we've been trying to get Eddie and some of that, I've been an authorized representative, but I'm not the authorized chief. So we're trying to change that. They pulled the resolution, saw that it was specific, so we have to pass a new resolution to update those contacts. That's all this resolution does, and this one is more generic. It authorizes the city manager, the assistant city manager, and the director of finance. And so that way, as we have personnel changes, we shouldn't run into this
That makes sense.
this issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all this does. Any other
Can I
questions?
ask you
Yep.
about that down there? I should know this, I know, but that doesn't include it being brought up to a park. I mean, that's something different. Okay,
Yeah.
that grant just was tearing it down and getting it
Right.
as a pass-through.
So the park is in this year's budget.
Okay,
So we budgeted funds this year. I don't think we're going to get to it.
right, but okay, makes sense.
We might get to bidding. It's going to be close, but most of that's probably going to carry over into next year. But once we'll get those plans out there, and I believe I told you, I knew once it came down, they'd start all well, what are you gonna do there? When are you gonna get, you know?
Yeah,
And so I believe in the budget process, I said we needed to fund that, because if we
Yeah.
didn't, we'd
yeah.
get all those questions. But it's coming, you know, everything's just a process.
And the money's already set aside for next year.
Correct. Yep.
And I know this is, well, I'll ask you later, never mind, because it's off track. I was gonna ask about Huber Park's equipment. I should have asked during your,
It's coming, and has it come in yet?
okay.
But I also told them,
It's gonna be after the
I don't-
summer.
Park Rec.
months.
yeah, because I didn't want to take I didn't want to go through the installation
Yeah.
process while Park Rec and the summer kids were out there. So
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
it was supposed to be here sometime in June,
Okay.
but they might be holding it or delaying it since we said we don't want to install it till late August.
After the thing, okay.
Yeah, because the last,
Sorry that I asked that in the wrong
No.
order, I'm so sorry. But on this, if anybody doesn't have any more question, we'll entertain a motion, sorry.
Okay, I move to approve resolution R-017-23, authorizing representatives in matters pertaining to the city of Borger participation in the Community Development Block Grant Program.
Second.
All in favor? And it passes. And item 13, consider and take appropriate action to approve an interlocal agreement between the City of Borger and Hutchinson County for on-site sewage facilities. Mr. Spratland.
I thought I'd save the crappy item for last.
That was a good one.
I get it.
That's really funny.
So we've had an interlocal agreement with the county for these services for many years, going back well into the 90s. So of course, we don't have that many septic systems inside the city because we have a sewer system. But the septic systems that they're required to be inspected and have a different permitting process than everything else. So over the years, we've used an interlocal agreement with the county to provide those services because while we don't have many, they have a lot.
Yeah.
And so the 2 or 3 that we might have, you know, don't justify sending somebody to training or keeping up with all those regulations. So this will allow anybody they have to deal with the county gets to charge the permit fee, the county issues the permit fee, they have to pay the county their annual inspection fee, and the county does the inspection and does it all with that. It's not really changing anything that's in place. The county was audited by the TCEQ, and they said that the old one was last approved in 2001. So they wanted it updated. You know, the only thing I added a little caveat that they need to run by, make sure that the city authorizes the septic, because you know, if you have access to city sewer, we do not allow
Right.
a septic system. So I just added that caveat to make sure that they're not authorizing a septic system where city code doesn't
Okay.
authorize it. So, but for the most part, there are very few. They're mostly like out South Lancelot on those 10-acre tracts, and some in the big estate agricultural areas. So it's like less than 10. But that's all this does. It just continues what's going on and says the county will do it, and they can charge our citizens a fee to do it.
If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve an interlocal agreement between the city of Borger and Hutchinson County for on-site sewage facilities.
A second.
All in favor? And it passes. And item 14 is...
I've got one question before you go there.
Yep.
On the sewage problems, we issued a waiver for Tractor Supply, correct? Or they switched yet?
They are waiting on power.
Okay.
So,
Since this was here, I just,
yeah, they have put in their request to Excel. There was you know, none of it doesn't become the city's until it's fully running and we tested and accepted. So there was some miscommunication. I think they thought we were gonna request the power service. But you know, right now, none of that's ours. It's all still technically a private sewage system. So they didn't think about that till the lift station was delivered. And so now that the lift station was been delivered, we're like, oh, we need power. When are you gonna get power here? So we were kinda like, what do you mean, when are we gonna get power here? So we have facilitated the contact with Excel. It's in Excel's build queue. They need to add one more pole and a transformer to connect the power. Once the power is connected, then the lift station will be working and that whole system will be accepted into the city system.
I just know it's supposed to be a temporary thing, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
The lift station is in, it's all in right now, and they've done all the electrical work. It's just waiting on the power supply from Excel. For what it's worth, there's a 1-year maintenance period on city infrastructure before we fully accept it. They will have gone through probably all of that, so we'll get to fully accept everything probably when we do it. But I have asked Excel to accelerate that as much as they can, so it should be pretty soon. Of course, you know, Excel is,
No, I understand.
well, they're really tied up in Perryton right now, and rightfully so, so.
It took me 6 months to get my pole in the city, and it was done anyway.
Yeah,
You know, there wasn't an emergency on anything
Yeah.
going on then, so.
so they will move it as much as they can, because I did tell them, there is a Chapter 380 agreement tied to that I would like to get paid out this budget year. And so I did indicate that to Excel, and so they were gonna, I think it'll be done before the end of this budget year. They know that we have a time frame. I think that gives them like 3 months, so. Other questions, anything else I can answer?
I don't think so. So item 14, consider and take appropriate action to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? And we are adjourned. Thank y'all for